Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined on this Thursday morning, as I always am, by Andrew Erickson and Derek Brown. Fellas, it is Week 15. The fantasy playoffs are here in most leagues. Even if they're not, then you are in the stretch run of trying to make the playoffs in your league, and we are here to help. No preamble, let's dive right in. Week 15 must-start players, starting with the running backs and starting with DBro.
Oh, dear Lord. And the year of our Lord, 2023, I'm going to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. But, man, this is where we're at. It is what it is, man. Zeke crushed, and we just needed to call it what it is. He was the RB1 overall last week, and he looked good. I can't say anything. I know I gave him a lot of shade on the shows, on the waiver wire, and all that kind of stuff, but he actually looked like he had some juice. 18% missed tackles forced per attempt. He had 2.7 yards after contact per attempt. He totaled 29 touches and 140 total yards, and he's primed to do something similar again this week. Kansas City Chiefs run defense has been terrible, man. So I think New England just feeds him this week. And if he can hold up to the volume, Zeke is going to eat yet again.
Yeah, Erickson, what do you make of Zeke? I mean, the volume numbers kind of are what they are. It's hard to argue with, right?
Yeah, and I mean, look, as someone that watches the Patriots very closely every single week, like Zeke, when Ramondre was still healthy, like Zeke was playing pretty well, like on a per touch basis. Like he has been efficient this year for the most part, and now that he's getting a lot of the volume, it's like he's their offense. Like he's the engine of their offense, and I can't be looking up and be like, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott, the engine of the Patriots offense, 3-10 squad. It's just very bizarre, but you can't argue with the volume, you can't argue with the matchup. Again, just a matter of how many points are the Patriots going to score. Like he's not guaranteed to score a touchdown, but the yardage should be there, and if he's catching passes, that gives him a really safe floor.
DBro, if you are putting Zeke in your lineup, what, like, scale of 1 to 10, what are your like positive vibes level? Like, are you feeling good about it, or does it feel gross just given his age and recent history?
So I want to tell you, and I think most people are going to go to the gross factor here. I actually feel pretty damn good about it, man. Like, okay. The volume's going to be there. I mean, to be honest, I look at Zeke the way that I like. To me, that just makes me sad that we don't have Ramondre like that because of injuries that was stolen from us. But I feel the same comfort level right now putting Zeke into a lineup, considering last week's performance, as I would starting Ramondre Stevenson. Like, what else is different? He's going to get 20 to 25 touches. He is going to get a ton of checkdowns. We saw that last week. And if he scores, Yahtzee, he's top 5, he's top 10 again. If he doesn't score, he's still going to be an RB2. So I feel pretty good about it, which is honestly kind of scary.
Yeah. All right, Erickson, give me your first must-start running back.
Going to continue to ride the usage here with Zack Moss. Look, that's all I can tell you, because he's seeing crazy usage every single week. He just has been running really cold when it comes to touchdowns. He scored a touchdown last week, but it got called back due to a penalty. So he has 15 red zone touches over the last 2 weeks. He has 0 touchdowns, but he still saw 8 targets last week, caught 4 for 28 yards. Look, I just think that you have to continue to look at the usage. I mean, look at the Steelers. I mean, who just had a great game against the Steelers? Ezekiel Elliott, because he got volume. And the week before that, who had a great game against the Steelers? James Conner. Why? Because he got volume. Like, so Zack Moss, again, Jonathan Taylor's not going to play in this game. He's the strict bell cow. He's been down the last couple weeks, but all indications are, hey, this is going to regress positively for him, about just based on the amount of red zone touches he's seeing in this offense. Again, he scored last week, but got called back due to a penalty. Eventually, that's not always going to be the case. So I'm going to continue to lean on Zack Moss.
Yeah, DBro, you are a bit lower on Moss than Erickson is, who's ranking him very aggressively. You are below consensus, though.
I've got him at RB19, and when I looked at him writing up the primer, the concerning thing for me with Zack Moss is just how inefficient he's been over the last few weeks. Like, looking at Zack Moss's tackle breaking metrics, it's honestly, like, the volume is definitively there. I can't say anything else about that. But if you look at Zack Moss since week 13, 0 goose egg explosive runs. He's only forced missed tackles on 3% of his volume. He has 2.06 yards after contact per attempt. Like, all of these numbers are pretty damn bad. So I hear the volume conversation, and I totally understand that. And could he burn me because of that volume? Absolutely. My pause on Moss is I don't know if the volume's caught up to him at this point of the season because he's not breaking tackles over the last 2 weeks. And that's what I think has really crushed him over the last 2 weeks. The efficiency we saw earlier in the season, and he was breaking tackles like crazy, he's not doing that now.
DBro, can you just wave the white flag for Zack Moss, please? For
yes.
those that need Zack Moss.
I'm doing it for the people. I give up on Zack Moss. I give up. The white flag is raised. We're pulling it to the top of the mast. I give up, people. So I cannot play Zack Moss. You're welcome.
Thank you for being our hero there, DBro. Let's stick with you for your next must-start running back.
Oh, man. The guy that I'm going to talk about here, and I know, or at least I think Erickson and I are going to divide on this a little bit, is Keaton Mitchell, man. If you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars run defense over the last few weeks, they have not been as good, not even close to as good as they were to begin the season. Since week 9, Jacksonville is allowing the highest explosive run rate in the NFL, the 5th highest rushing touchdown rate, and the 3rd most missed tackles per attempt. So all of this screams efficiency, 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 efficiency. And the trend line for Keaton Mitchell is not good. Like, it was going up and we're all feeling great and grand. And then the last week happened and then his snaps go down. And I'm like, it's not great. But if we're talking about a guy that's going to be working on limited volume, like Keaton Mitchell, even in the best circumstances, what are we talking about here? 12, maybe 13 or 14 touches. That's about it. So we're going to bank on the efficiency. Everything I'm looking at for the Jacksonville Jaguars says that they are going to give up big runs in this game. So that's where the path to success for Keaton Mitchell comes, because we know the volume's not going to be there. I just need him to be efficient as all get out with the touches that he does get, and I think he can do that.
Erickson, a little spoiler alert coming up on the Must Sit show today. You've got Keaton Mitchell in that list as well. So going head to head really directly against DBro here, Keaton Mitchell, are you just, what are you missing on him, I guess?
I just disagree with the matchup. I don't think it's a good matchup. Like, I get, like, they've given up a couple explosive runs. Chase Brown had a big run against them, but, Jerome Ford had 51 rushing yards last week. Kareem Hunt had 27. Joe Mixon had 68 yards on 19 carries, and he scored 2 touchdowns. Is Keaton Mitchell going to score 2 touchdowns? Like, Derrick Henry had under 40 yards against them. Like, Devin Singletary had under 20 yards against them. Like, they've shown plenty of signs of being able to... The thing is, like, they're better, even if they have shown some weakness against the run, they're significantly worse against the pass. And what did we see from this offense last week? Why isn't Lamar just dialing up passing attempts and just ripping the team to shreds? Like, that's what I think their game plan is going to be. I don't think they're going to need to rely on Keaton Mitchell as this uber efficient running back. And what's his touchdown equity? I just don't see a scenario where, unless Keaton Mitchell, again, he's an explosive running back. Could he rip off a 60-yard touchdown? Yeah. But I don't want to bet on that on my fantasy football playoffs when there's no floor attached to it. So that's why I'm not as high on Keaton Mitchell. And again, where do you have him ranked, DBro? Because we talk about this when we're disagreeing on players, and then it's like, we're like 3 spots a difference. Like, where do you actually have Mitchell ranked?
I've got him at RB 26, so that's somewhere in the RB 3 range. Like, I'm not insane. I'm not pushing him over the volume with Chuba Hubbard. And, so it's like, I think when outside of the ranking conversation, when you talk about because Keaton Mitchell is going to be a flex play for people. When we get into the flex weeds, and it's like, I'm going shooting for upside and I need upside from that spot. That's where I think the Keaton Mitchell outside of the rankings conversation comes into play, where it's like, am I going to play him versus another running back or a wide receiver? It's like, if I'm shooting for upside, I'm going to go with Mitchell.
It's hard to believe we are this deep into the NFL season. We've got to make every second count. With DraftKings Sportsbook, you can make the most out of every game day. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting 5 on any matchup. We are at the time of year where we've got some Saturday games to watch this week, plus a couple of standout games on Sunday as always. The week finishes particularly strong with Cowboys-Bills Sunday afternoon, Ravens-Jags Sunday night, and Eagles-Seahawks on Monday Night Football. DraftKings has Dallas getting 1.5 on the road in Buffalo in what should be the game of the week. However you plan to bet that one, get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now and use code FantasyPros. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on the NFL, only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code FantasyPros. The crown is yours. Erickson, hit me with your next must-start running back.
Antonio Gibson. I don't think Brian Robinson's going to play. He opened this week with a hamstring injury that he suffered the last time we saw the Commanders play. They went on bye week. He comes out, doesn't practice. So I don't think he's going to play in this game. So for me, that makes Antonio Gibson a must-start option as a top 24 guy. He's a 3-down skill set. I get the matchup's not great against the Rams, but I'm chasing the total in this game. Like, this game has a massive total. We should see plenty of passing attempts from the Commanders because that's literally what we see from them all the time. And there was a stretch of games where Antonio Gibson, even when Brian Robinson was still active in the lineup, Gibson was getting absolutely peppered with targets and catches. He had 3 straight games with 5 catches. And the last 2 games, he had 3 catches and 4 receptions. So layering in, okay, he has a pass catching role. Then you're going to layer in any extra rushing production that he gets, any extra red zone usage that he gets. I think that he's a viable option this week with a guy with 3-down skill set. And it doesn't even matter what happens in this game. Like, if the Commanders jump out to a lead, okay, Gibson's getting the ball. If they fall behind, Gibson's getting dump off passes. So I really like Gibson as a spot here. I want people to be forward thinking when it comes to, don't expect Brian Robinson to be available. Like, look at Antonio Gibson on your roster and be like, hey, this guy's going to be the starting running back for the Commanders this week, and I should view him as a top 24 option versus my other options on my team.
DBro, Antonio Gibson is RB 35. Is that too high, too low, or just right?
I think, well, if Brian Robinson is out, then I think it's just right. If Brian Robinson's active, then I think it's too high. I have no faith in Antonio Gibson. Like, I understand the points that Erickson makes, and the only thing that keeps resounding in my head is that Jason Momoa meme where, like, he's sneaking up on Henry Cavill, and, like, I just think of Chris Rodriguez as like, I'm coming for those touches and touchdowns, baby. Like, that's all I can think of right now.
All right, DBro, give me your next must-start running back.
Well, Alexander Madison's probably not going to play this week, boys. We're firing up Ty Chandler. And this comes down to, again, we're talking about injuries and volume opportunities. Ty Chandler is going to be the guy. Kene Nwangwu probably plays. He probably spells him some, but he's not going to factor in for a heavy amount of touches. And you look at the Bengals, you can run on the Cincinnati Bengals. Since week 9, 8th lowest stuff rate, 11th highest missed tackles per attempt. So Ty Chandler might not be the sexiest name in the world, but as long as Alexander Madison is going to be out this week, Ty Chandler is going to be a top 24 back.
Erickson, where do you have Chandler?
I have him in the 30s, but I agree that he would be ranked higher if Madison is ultimately. Did Madison not practice the first week?
Yeah, he is not. He's not practiced at all this week.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if he's out, yeah, I'll rank Tyler Chandler.
If he's out, like, I've got him at RB 40 right now, just because I want to see him ruled out. But I'm saying right now, if we know that Madison is out, I'm moving Ty Chandler up to RB 20.
Yeah, I would probably move Ty Chandler ahead of, like, Gibson, so I would move him into the top 24. So.
Like him or Javonte Williams, Erickson. Where are you going?
I would still start Javonte.
Okay.
All right, Erickson, give me your last must-start running back.
More of a deep play if you're looking for a flex. Tyler Allgeier. Look, he is viewed as their closer. Like, that's how they like using him. They don't use him in the first half of the games. They use him in the fourth quarter. And if they're trying to kill clock against the Carolina Panthers on the road, Allgeier is going to get the rock. And the Panthers are just one of the worst defenses against the run. So I think that if you're hurting at running back, you've had some injuries, you need an RB2 slot. I think that Allgeier, who's available like on a lot of waiver wires too, just because he got dropped, I think that he's a deeper play, just given how good the matchup is.
Yeah, actually, I want to pull up and see what his availability looks like. While I do that, DBro, what do you think about Allgeier this week?
I think Algier's fine. I mean, I'm getting all choked up sitting here thinking about Arthur Smith and his usage of running backs. It gets to me sometimes. But looking at Tyler Allgeier, I mean, the thesis of the play is absolutely right. Like, I don't think the Carolina Panthers are winning this game. And if you're looking at a guy that could sniff 12 to 14 opportunities and positive game script, Allgeier does fit the bill. So I probably need to move him up in my ranks.
He is 49% rostered in Yahoo and 39% rostered in ESPN. So he very likely is available.
And he's just like a good handcuff to own in case, because the Falcons schedule is so good. And if Bijan were to get hurt, like,
oh yeah,
Allgeier needs to be on every roster,
especially
like, even just for the handcuff.
I've been telling this people all week. Like, as soon as you get to there's no more buys, but B, you're in the playoffs. Like, your bench should be as high upside as possible at this point because you're trying to win a championship. I mean, you don't need to have this like great startable depth that has a low ceiling to get through the bye weeks. That's done. So a guy like Allgeier, if he's available, he is the type of guy you want. on your bench this time of year. Let's go to the Who Do I Start tool, guys. This is free to use for anybody at fantasypros.com/start. Anybody can head there, put in their own starter sit questions, up to 4 different players at a time, which is a really nice feature. You can even pick and choose which experts your decision draws from. Again, that's free to use at fantasypros.com/start, the Who Do I Start tool. DBro, are you starting Zeke Elliott or DeAndre Swift this week?
Oh, man, I'm going Swift. That's really close. That's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but I'm going Swift.
How about, well, actually, since that one was so close, Erickson, what would you do there, Zeke or Swift?
I'm going Zeke. I just think that Swift, the matchup is good, but his role is not good. He doesn't get a lot of targets, and he doesn't have touchdown equity. Even on he's on one of the best offenses in the NFL, and he doesn't score touchdowns. I get Zeke doesn't have a lot of touchdown equity either, but at least he's going to get the ball if the Patriots get to the red zone. He's going to score. So Zeke matchup is just as good, but Zeke's getting all the volume and getting all the high value touches, whereas Swift is not. So I'm going with Zeke.
Could we get Jalen Hurts to shove Swift in the end zone once or twice? Could they design that? That'd be
well. Nice I have no idea who did this, but shouts to them. Somebody edited the Talladega Nights where he's like, hey, maybe I could finish first a couple of times. John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell's like, yeah, but then I wouldn't finish first. And it was Jalen Hurts and talking about the tush push with DeAndre Swift. It was an amazing meme. So whoever came up with that,
it's glorious.
Shouts to you. That was perfect. DBro, Keaton Mitchell or Ty Chandler, which I wrote before you talked about both those guys. So it sounds like you have a clear preference there.
Yeah, it's Ty Chandler, and it goes down to the volume. He's going to get all the touches. Yeah, it's going to be Chandler.
Yeah. Would Jaylen Warren be over both those guys for you?
Ty Chandler would be over Jaylen Warren, and I've actually got Jaylen Warren. I think Jaylen Warren and Keaton Mitchell are a very similar conversation. I've got Warren one spot ahead of Keaton Mitchell, but if you were to tell me, if anybody wanted to say, look, I'm going to play Mitchell over Warren, I'm not going to push back because over the last few weeks, Najee Harris has been getting all of the red zone work. Don't know why it's happening, just throwing it out there that it is happening.
All right, Erickson, Zack Moss or Austin Eckler?
Zack Moss.
And you have Zack Moss, it's showing on the site, top 5 this week. Is that still the case?
Yeah, just look at the usage. He's got 15 red zone touches over the last 2 weeks. He's going to score eventually, so yeah.
Tyler Allgeier or Zach Charbonnet?
Allgeier.
And then since Gibson's still in the more of the RB3 range, just give me some interesting names you're starting him over.
I would start him over Edwards-Helaire. I'd probably start him over Jaylen Warren, James Conner, Jerome Ford, Keaton Mitchell, AJ Dillon.
What about Gus Bus?
Yeah,
you want to get Gibson over Gus Bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to the must-start wide receivers. DBro, starting with you.
First guy I got to bring up, and we're going to go down the list a little bit. A guy that hasn't made noise recently, but I think he comes back in a big way this week. People need to get Josh Downs into the lineups. I think Michael Pittman is going to get a shadow for Joey Porter Jr., who has been electric this year. He has been... You can make a really good case for Joey Porter Jr. If it's not him, it's L'Jarius Sneed, who have been the 2 best shadow corners in the NFL this year. He's just playing out of his mind. So I think Pittman gets erased from this game. And that says a lot. I'm deciding how low do I want to put Michael Pittman this week. But looking at the matchup for Josh Downs, they turned Patrick Peterson into the slot corner. So you're telling me Josh Downs and his speed can't burn Patrick Peterson at this stage? As well as since week 9, Pittsburgh has given up the 4th most PPR points per target to opposing slot wide receivers. Josh Downs is going to lead the Colts in targets and receiving production this week. You need to get him into your lineups.
Where do you have him ranked? Because he's ranked wide receiver 43 in half PPR in the consensus.
That is way too low. I've got him in wide receiver 3 range. Josh Downs is wide receiver... I got him at wide receiver 30. So I will play Josh Downs over Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. Let's go, baby. Giddy up.
And Erickson, you are even higher on Downs this week in the rankings.
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
Wide receiver 20. I'm getting that little notification every time. It's like, you are X amount spots higher than this player. Are you sure you want to submit your rankings? I'm like, yes, I do, because it's Josh
Erickson
Downs
grins ear to ear.
baby.
He's like,
Let's go.
Erickson has conviction. That's for sure. Erickson, who's your first must-start receiver?
Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I think that this is a great spot for him against the Philadelphia Eagles. You're looking at the weakest part of this Eagles defense. Again, it's been a defense that wide receivers have been scoring fantasy points left and right against, but they're allowing the most fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. So again, we're always talking about these rookies that break out in the second half of season. JSN has been heating up. I absolutely love what we've seen from him. He has over 20 targets over the last 2 weeks. Like, he had 8 targets last week, 23% target share, coming off a game before that where he had 11 plus targets. He led the team in targets for the second straight game. Again, he's coming off a down game. He only had 4 catches for 25 yards, but the usage was there still. 71% of the snaps. Ran a route on 79% of the dropbacks, both increased from the week prior. So this rookie's heating up, and the matchup screams that you need to start Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So again, he's definitely someone that you haven't been starting every single week. You've kind of been holding on the bench, hoping you would get a late season surge. I think it starts now. So I'm trying to find ways to get JSN into my lineup.
To Erickson's point, the great thing for JSN since week 8, 32.6% designed looks. So Seattle is like, we are gonna get the ball in your hands, baby.
Are we maybe overreacting too much to some of the like underlying metrics as opposed to the actual production? Because like if you look since week 8, like DBro just said, wide receiver finished 33, 24, 39, 50, 63, 31, 55. So you're not actually getting the fantasy points that you've needed.
Well, Worm, he did catch a touchdown against Dallas, but it was overturned.
That's true. That's
it was
true.
a touchdown.
That's what I mean. It's just like stuff like that. So it's like in the final box score, that's not going to be there, but that's why we dive deep into these deeper metrics, being like, hey, he had 11 targets. He actually caught a touchdown and would have had a much bigger game. And last week, again, Drew Lock was the quarterback. Like, that's a big difference between having Geno Smith. So, look, I just think that the spot here, I mean, he can be a potential league winner. Like, he's got the Eagles this week, then the Titans, then the Steelers. Like, we just talked about how much we love Josh Downs because he's the slot guy. JSN's the slot guy. So, I say right now, like, you jam him in your lineup and you do not move him until the end of the season. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm with you moving forward on how it looks. I speaking for the audience, I think it's hard to say, oh, this guy's heating up when he's only gotten into double-digit fantasy scoring once in the last 6 weeks.
Touchdown. Like, it was
That
was the week he did go into double digits, so it would still be only once in the last 6 weeks that he was in double digits if that touchdown had counted. But
such a hater.
I'm a believer going forward. Like I said, I'm trying to speak for the audience here. Let's go to now.
Don't come at me with your dynasty offers for JSN. I know. I see you.
I can't remember that. You didn't want to trade for Puka, and that's on you. That train has left the station.
We're not going to talk about your price tags. Okay, we're going to leave that out.
It
of this
actually
show,
would have been a reasonable price tag now in hindsight.
Looking back,
yes.
to your point.
Yes, I knew what I had. Famously, I'm the Puka guy on this show, so
it's fair. Juice is real.
Let's go now to our Miller Lite. Here's to what's next. Must start player of the week. DBro, who do you got?
Oh man, my guy is going to be Odell Beckham Jr. And I was touting Odell's praises in the week prior, and I'm going right back to the well. And that's because the matchup, baby. Going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they've allowed the 5th most PPR points per target to opposing wide receivers since week 9. OBJ, 23% target share last week. He's crushing, man. And look, highest snap rate since week 8 last week. So we're gonna stay in the flames. We're gonna ride the lightning. We're going with OBJ.
Now, we know Odell's dynasty value isn't much of anything given his age, but as our here's to what's next player this week, what do we think of his finish to this season rest of the way? Where are we ranking OBJ rest of the season with huge matchups coming up against the Jags, 49ers, and Dolphins? It's not an easy finish.
It's not an easy finish. I think that considering the offense, considering how well, and we talked about this before we turn the cameras on, how well Lamar is playing, because he is playing out of his mind, dude. I want the possible wide receiver 1, maybe the wide receiver 2, however you want to dice this up. I want those guys attached to Lamar Jackson. So OBJ, he's going to be in that weekly wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 conversation, depending on the matchup.
He's wide receiver 42 in the rest of season rankings. Erickson, where would you put him? Kind of what range?
Probably in wide receiver 3 range. Yeah.
I think wide receiver 42 is too low. I think he's getting healthy.
It is.
Like you said, the offense is playing really well. They're going to need to score in games against San Francisco and Miami. So I think he's going to have a really strong finish to the season. I don't know if I would like slap the league winner title on him, but I think he's a guy I want to be starting the rest of the way if I can find room for him. With a Miller Lite in your hand, winter doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. That's MillerLite.com/FantasyPros, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Erickson, give me your next must-start receiver.
All right, well, because I need to please the box score, Worm, I'm going to go with a guy that actually has been producing the last couple of weeks, Rashee Rice for the Kansas City Chiefs, another rookie wide receiver. You look at his last couple games, he's gone over 7 receptions in 3 straight games. He's gone over 60 receiving yards in 3 straight games. Like, the Chiefs have no wide receiver they can trust that's not named Rashee Rice. So I think that he's going to continue to be the focal point of the Chiefs passing game. You look at what the Patriots traditionally do. They try to take away your number one weapon. They know that's going to be Travis Kelce. So they're going to try to throw everything at Travis Kelce, which I think should let Rashee Rice see the majority of targets in this offense. Again, the Patriots don't have a good defense against wide receivers, especially ones like Rashee Rice. They're allowing the 3rd most fantasy points per game to perimeter wide receivers. That's where Rice is mostly deployed, is out on the perimeter. So I think that it's a good matchup for Rice. The production is there for Rice the last couple weeks, and his usage has also been increasing. He's seeing highs in snap share in terms of route participation because the Chiefs are trying to get the ball to nobody else besides Rice and Kelce. And just given the matchup against the Patriots, I think Rice is going to be the guy that sees the most volume after he saw 10 targets last week.
Wide receiver 23 this week in ECR. Too high, too low, or just right, Erickson?
That's too low. I mean, the last 3 weeks, he's been 4, 26, and 12. So 23 is at his lower range of outcomes. When I just talked about the matchup's good. And the Chiefs they're not going to score 0 points. I can get their offense has struggled, but I mean, Rice has been a target machine. He has 9+ targets in 3 straight games. Like, I would argue that he should be higher. Like, he should be more in the conversation like a wide receiver 15. Like, why is this rookie someone that we're looking, he's a low-end wide receiver too, when the production says that's like his floor. I think that he's a great player. Again, another player that I'm trying to find ways to get into my lineup. I have him right next to Zay Flowers. Like, they're both rookies, and they're both the number 1 wide receivers on their team. So why not? And they both have good matchups.
Yeah,
I've got Rice at wide receiver 17. I'm right with you, Erickson.
DBro, you've got another rookie here you want to talk about.
I mean, anytime we can talk about Derry Bell, Debo Samuel, we have to, right, baby? Like, come on. Jayden Reed has been crushing over the last few weeks. Since week 8, he's wide receiver 20 in fantasy points per game. He's getting rushing attempts. He's scoring rushing touchdowns. He's getting target volume. And he's gonna crush again this week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't stop anybody. Carlton Davison's banged up. Jamel Dean's banged up. Even when they have been playing, they haven't been good. They can't stop anybody via the slot. Jayden Reed could score twice in this game, once on the ground and once through the air, and nobody should be surprised at all. You need to play him. We talk about how many rookies have we just mentioned on this show? This is the time of year when the rookies take flight. They are the picks that you make in the beginning of the year and you're like, do I drop him? What do I do? I can't start him. These are the guys that are going to bring you to Titletown, baby. Like, they're driving the freaking bus right now. Jayden Reed, JSN, Rashee Rice, giddy up.
Was limited in practice on Wednesday. Is there any concern there, Erickson or DBro?
No, I mean, he's been dealing on and off with little dings. I mean, if he's limited in practice, if he gets a DMP, then I'll raise the flag, but not yet.
He has a functioning hamstring, which Christian Watson does not have. Just gonna think Jayden Reed will be okay.
Don't take shots at my man's like that.
Erickson, give me your last must-start receiver.
Okay, must start is probably a little aggressive, but I want to talk about a deeper play because it's do or die. If you have this guy, if he's available, you need upside. I think Jerry Jeudy has upside this week. He saw 6 targets last week. He had 20% target share. He had 77% of the air yards, and he had basically all the makings of a great game, and then just totally spiraled out of control. He didn't get his second foot in bounds, and they were talking about the touchdown to Courtland Sutton was actually a play. Sean Payton said after the game, the play was actually designed to go to Jerry Jeudy, but when Russ is just like scrambling, he's like, you know what? Where's Courtland Sutton? Like, that's where I have to throw the ball to. So Sutton's on 10 touchdowns. But Jerry Jeudy should see some positive regression. He only has 1 touchdown this year. His expected touchdown output is 4 touchdowns. You look at the Detroit Lions, just an awesome matchup. They rank first in terms of red zone touches allowed to wide receivers this season. Again, all reasons why you should be starting Courtland Sutton, but all reasons why, hey, if this game shoots out, you might see another Denver Broncos wide receiver actually do something that's not named Courtland Sutton. So you're already starting Sutton, but I think that Jerry Jeudy is a deeper play. If you're a big underdog, you know, you're the 8th seed facing the number 1 seed this week, and you need upside like off the waiver wire, you don't like your flex play, like Jerry Jeudy could potentially be that guy because he's probably available on a lot of waiver wires after disappointing. But last week, all the usage was there for him to have a big week. It did not come to fruition, but in an even better matchup against the Detroit Lions, I think Jerry Jeudy, who again last year was in a similar situation where he had all this regression kind of like building up, and then he scored 3 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs. So in this spot where the Lions have been really bad, particularly against number 2 wide receivers, that's Jerry Jeudy. I think this could be a big game for him of basically his one big game, you know, of the season.
My bold call with the weed, Erickson. I put it in the bold calls article. 120 and a tutty, baby.
How many times this season do you think Jerry Jeudy has finished as wide receiver 24 or better?
0.
It How many times do you think he's got into double-digit scoring in half PPR?
0.
2. He had 11 fantasy points in week 3 and 12 in week 8.
I know he's been bad.
I know, it's just funny to say, oh, high upside guy. The most he scored this year in a game is 12, and we're in week 15 . So,
but again, it's
I get
the matchup's there. The matchup is there, man.
We're going to see a game where the Broncos are forced to pass more. It would be against Detroit. At Ford Field.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with you. It's just funny to look at a guy like that's game log and be like, high upside guy this week.
Don't worry, Worm. His box score is going to look good this week, okay?
I'm just asking questions here, guys. DBro, Josh Downs or JSN this week?
Downs.
Erickson, I forget if you said this during your segment, but who would you side with there, Downs or JSN?
I actually have Downs ahead too. At first I was like,
don't
wait,
give me your scoff, Erickson.
I have Downs ahead for too.
Yeah, I was like, don't give me your fake scoff. I know. I know.
DBro, Odell Beckham Jr. or Tyler Lockett this week?
Ooh. I'm going Lockett. I think that game shoots out. I'm just going to play the total and play the game.
Lockett is ranked higher in ECR by about 5 spots. I would probably take Odell there, but I think there's
if you were to tell me Odell outscores him, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah. Jayden Reed or Zay Flowers?
So many good pieces for Baltimore and so many ways of the touchdown. Let's go Jayden Reed, baby. Let's go Jayden Reed.
Erickson, JSN, or Noah Brown? This is, I would say, assuming Stroud plays.
JSN, it's not even close.
JSN.
Rashee Rice or Courtland Sutton?
Oh.
I have Rice one spot ahead, so go Rice.
It's a good one.
Who would you take?
I have them right. I think I have them hugged up as well. I've got Courtland Sutton 1 spot ahead. Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore?
Dude, Elijah Moore is never gonna happen. So Jerry Jeudy. Let's go.
Okay. I don't know that I would feel good about either of them, but that's fair.
I mean, it's like the whole it's like Gabe Davis or Jerry Jeudy or a bunch of a boom bust guy. Like that's the play here, and just like, hey, you got to call your shot.
Yeah.
And this is the spot for Jeudy.
DBro must start quarterback, tight end, and defense/special teams.
Well, talked about Derry Bell Debo. We're going to go this quarterback, Jordan Love, baby. Since week 9, Tampa Bay has allowed the 4th highest yards per attempt, the most passing yards per game. So Jordan Love looked shaky last week. He's going to get back on the good foot this week. The tight end we got to bring up here. There's so many good tight ends and really good matchups this week. Logan Thomas is the guy. You look at the Rams. They have not been able to stop tight ends all year. They're allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game and receiving yards per game to tight ends. And again, talked about this, or I'm going to talk about this here in a little bit. We need to put some respect on the Bears defense. Since week 11, DST 3 in fantasy points per game, baby. Let's go. Monsters of the Midway are back. You need to start the Bears, and they're out there everywhere. Like, I was looking at them earlier in the week. They were below 10% rostered in most leagues. Like, what are we doing here? Like, people are like, do I play the Raiders? Do I play the Chargers? Do I play the good game? No, you play the Bears. Play the Bears.
DBro, how many of these quarterbacks would you play over Jordan Love? Fields, Howell, Wilson, Goff, Tua.
Fields. I think Fields is the only one. Yeah.
You'd have Love over Sam Howell, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and Tua?
I do. I have Justin Fields at QB7, and I have Jordan Love at QB8. And now, if you were to, where I think the delineation should be, is Jordan Love versus Matthew Stafford. That's a really good conversation this week.
I no pun intended. I love Stafford this week. I think he's going to absolutely torch Washington. Erickson, give me your QP, TE, DST.
Getting all those words out at once. Kyler Murray is my must-start quarterback. I was surprised at how low he's in. He's like ECR like 16 or like 15.
I got him at 17, so I need to hear this case.
I don't get it.
Sell me
he's
here.
Number one, well, he's a mobile quarterback, so that automatically puts him in the consideration to be a top 15 quarterback anyway. The 49ers have faced the NFL's highest pass rate. We already talked about, or we're going to talk about, how James Conner is not set up for a smash spot here against the 49ers defense. So what are they going to do? They're going to throw the ball a ton. And you look at Kyler Murray in his home games this year, he's gone over 250 passing yards in both games. He's averaged 19 points per game at home. And this is coming from my betting perspective, but the games that have played in Arizona this year are perfect 6-0 towards the over. Like, these games are shooting out every single time that teams play Arizona, because Arizona plays way better at home. So I don't think that it's just going to be, the 49ers just go in there and just steamroll the Cardinals. Yeah, they're going to score points, but I think that the Cardinals coming off a bye week are going to score points too. So give me Kyler Murray, who I think is super undervalued based on his ability as a rusher and as a passer coming off a bye week playing at home. So
Erickson,
I think it's way too
Kyler
low.
gonna, or is Arizona going to become the new Coors Field for you?
No, Ford Field is the only Coors Field for me, but they are in the running for potential Coors Field of the
They're
NFL.
Coors Field Football South.
West. No, West. Not
Okay.
South.
All right, who's your tight end in defense?
Tucker Kraft is my tight end.
Yes.
Just playing the matchup here against the Buccaneers, allowing 6 most receiving yards per game to tight ends. And Tucker Kraft actually led the Packers in receiving yards last week, 64 yards on 4 catches, caught all of his targets. He had 4 targets, and he also played 100% of the snaps. So Tucker Kraft comes with a super high floor. He's playing every single snap, and the matchup is there. So I like Tucker Kraft, especially if Christian Watson remains out. The Packers are down a couple of their receivers, so I like him in this spot as a streaming tight end. And then DST, I do like the Bears a lot as well, but the Los Angeles Rams, again, they're playing the Commanders, they're playing the Commanders, and look, Sam Howell takes a lot of sacks. They're number one in the projections this week, and then you can ride them throughout the rest of the playoffs because they can play the Saints and then the Giants the next 2 weeks in the fantasy postseason. So if you're looking for a defense to kind of ride the rest of the way, the Rams could potentially be that for you.
Kyler Murray or Jordan Love?
Kyler Murray.
And then I'm asking you this one.
Why is that like I don't understand. Like I guess I'm out on like left field by myself here because
You are.
seems obvious.
I mean, you are
man.
well ahead of consensus on Kyler. I tend to agree with you, Erickson, that I think he's way undervalued at QB 15 is where he is in ECR. But I do like Love a lot too. The next one I was going to ask you, because I already know the answer looking at your rankings, Kyler Murray or Patrick Mahomes?
Kyler Murray, like he's a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's like that gives him such a high floor, and then you're adding in all this additional passing volume that he's going to get playing the 49ers.
I'm with you. I mean, you look at the guys that are ranked like directly ahead of Kyler this week, like Trevor Lawrence. I'd rather play Kyler.
What?
Like
Trevor Lawrence should not be over him.
Jared Goff, Tua, Russell Wilson. I get like those are the names that are directly ahead of Kyler.
Kyler Murray and DFS this week because nobody wants to play.
No, I'm
should.
right there with you. Let me do a quick recap here. We are starting Zeke Elliott, Zack Moss, Keaton Mitchell, Antonio Gibson, Ty Chandler, Tyler Allgeier, Josh Downs, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashee Rice, Jayden Reed, Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Logan Thomas, Tucker Kraft, the Bears defense, and the Rams defense. Best of luck, everybody, in your fantasy playoffs. We will be back next week for Erickson and DBro. We'll see you again next time. I'm Ryan.